Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, you may recall last video that I spent some time working on the grandfather clock that I inherited from my mom. It wasn't working perfectly, and I took it apart, basically discovered that there was something stuck in the mechanism, and was able to remove it, get it working again, and I'm happy to say that that clock is running perfectly right now. It's been going for about 5 days. I'm still kind of dialing in the time a little bit. It's losing about a minute a day, but that clock is 100%. Based on a conversation that kind of came up in yesterday's live stream, I started thinking about this other clock that I got, and I've shown you it a couple times, and basically it's a very, very old clock that belonged to my great-grandmother or something like that, and has been passed down through the family, and it belongs to me. And it was damaged also in the move, and there were potentially other problems too. The glass panel in the front got broken, but I've managed to save that, and I think I might be able to find somebody who can, regenerate another one from what I have. So hopefully we can get somebody to do that. I also suspected that one of the springs was broken. And so yesterday I spent a little time after the live stream, and I actually managed to remove the clock mechanism from the enclosure and have confirmed indeed that the spring is broken. So let's look at that, and I'll tell you what we're going to do next. All right, so this is the clock mechanism that I've removed from the enclosure. This is where the pendulum hangs. It makes the clock work. This is a little chime or the little hammer that hits the chime, and there's a spring on this side that you wind up here to make the clock work, and there's a spring on this side that you wind up to make the chimes work. And I noticed when I was twisting this that it doesn't sound like, when I was trying to wind up the chime part of the clock, that it sounded like the spring was broken or had come disconnected. Well, once I got it out of there, it became clear that, yeah, the spring is actually broken. So at that point, this officially moves beyond my ability to deal with it. I got to get professional help. I know people have been saying I need professional help for a long time, but I have the wisdom at this point to know that this is beyond my ability. So I started looking around and to see if I could find somebody that could repair this thing, and maybe even offer some suggestions on some of the other issues with the clock. And it turns out, you remember a couple times I've been down to the Homestead Heritage festivals, the Sorghum Festival. It's a kind of a religious sect that's a very devout religious sect that kind of lives in the little north of Waco. And they have a lot of artisans, blacksmiths, and leather makers, and steel workers, and stuff like that. And I just was looking. It's like, oh, they got a clock repairman down there too. I bet you this guy, because he can supposedly deal with all sorts of clocks. This should be a simple fix for somebody that knows what they're doing. They basically just got to disconnect it here, disconnect it on the middle, get a new spring and wind it in. And it doesn't seem like that spring should be terribly difficult to find. So I'm going to bring this thing down along with the rest of the clock down to the clockworker in Homestead Heritage, and let's see if they can do something about this. This guy's supposedly legendary with clocks. Oh, and one more thing I learned about this guy also deals with cuckoo clocks, so if he can make a quick work of my mom's old clock, he'll get this one next. Alright, so I brought the clock over to the guys at Heritage Homestead, and I haven't been able to meet up with them yet, but I decided on the way home I wanted to check something out. You may know that I've visited the lake a few times in the last year and a half to look at the water level, and I've been told that, I was told about a week ago that somebody looked it up and the lake was full again. I couldn't believe that, so I decided I was going to come down here and check it out myself. Holy cow, they are right. The water level is back to normal up here. This is one of the places I go all the time. And I mean, I could go another 10, 15 feet down in elevation here, and I've never seen the water level this high. Look at this. Some of these trees have been washed in by recent storms. That's insane. Like I said, the water level used to be like way, way, way down there. I've been here a number of times in the last year and a half. I am stunned how much, and I don't even know where the water came from, because the truth is it's rained a little bit this winter, but I don't know. They've done that. This is the most stunning part here. This is that bridge, or that little dock that I've walked out on a few times, and I've been able to get out, 50, 75 feet in front of that thing and not get my feet wet. And look at this. This thing's flooded in here. This whole area was dry when I was out here a couple months ago. This thing's in the process of being ripped apart. Of course, this thing here has been condemned for a long time. But this thing's underwater right now. Like I said, I could walk to the end of that thing down there and get way, way, way out there in the middle. It's also really windy and stormy, which I think you probably can hear today. That dock is completely underwater right now. That's insane. Like I said, I don't know what they did to get the water level back up, because, yeah, we've had some rain this year, but not that much. Not a good day to be out there, though. I'm getting splashed by just the water hitting that log. Like I said, I was really doubtful when somebody mentioned on the live stream that they looked it up and the lake was full. But it is. It has bounced back very, very quickly. That's amazing. I'm not even going to the other areas because I know it's all the same. One of the other places I go is over there on the other side of the bridge. But it looks like our drought is over, at least for now. Check that out. Like I said, this whole area here was dry just a few months ago. Look at all the garbage that's blown in here. Logs and whatever that is out there. That is wild. In addition to the comment of one of my viewers, I think on one of the live streams a week ago, I think I also saw an article come across my timeline on Facebook that suggested that they were starting to divert water back into the Lake Waco wetlands. And they hadn't done that for a while because of the lake level. So I've been down to the Lake Waco wetlands a few times, and I've never actually seen it be wet. So I don't know, maybe tomorrow what my video is going to be to take a trip down to the wetlands and see if it's actually wet down there. It's always been kind of dry, and yeah, there's a little bit of water down there, but not what you think of when you think of a wetland. So I don't know, maybe that's what we'll do tomorrow. All right, it's the next day. I made it over today to the Heritage Homestead clock place and met Moses, the clock guru over there. Moses is just a kid. It surprised me. He's maybe in his late 30s, maybe early 40s. So I expected somebody who was a craftsman like this, be 50, 60 years old. But whatever, he seems to know what he's doing. He's looked at the clock. He's confirmed that yes, that one spring is broken. He actually recommends replacing both the springs because he says they're probably the same age, and when one of them gets to the point where it's going to break, it's likely the other one will too. And it's like $95 to replace one spring, but it's like $125 to replace both of them, because a big part of the replacing the spring is you got to take the clock apart, and if you're going to take it apart, you might as well replace both of them, right? So at this point, it's just dealing with the cost of the new spring and the labor to put it in. So we're going to do that. He also looked into the issue of the piece of glass. Now, the glass itself is not a problem. Home Depot could do the glass. The problem is there was some etching on the glass, this kind of little lacy curtain things that were on it, that I wanted to see if they could reproduce. Now, they're not going to be able to reproduce them exactly, but we found something that's close, and apparently there's a company that sells like little pre-made labels that you put on the glass that make it look like the original etching that was there. And it wasn't really etching, it was like screen printed on there or something like that. And we picked one that's going to fit in the place, that's going to look the most like the original piece. And we've ordered that, and we're going to get that put in. And he's also going to disassemble the clock completely, clean it all out, buff it all up, re-oil it, get it nice and smooth so that it will last me another 20 or 30 years. And that's a good thing. He's going to reassemble it for me. I took the whole thing apart. You know, I know a lot of times with these repair guys, you know, they see some customer that took the thing apart. It's like, oh crap, what did he do to it? You know, but I didn't do any damage to it. I was very careful removing it, and I kept all the pieces, and we're good to go. So once he gets the new spring in there, he's going to reassemble it, put it back together, put the hands in place, replace the glass. There's also that piece of the wood at the top that was damaged, and he's going to try and fix that as well. Now, he's estimating 6 weeks to do this. So I'm going to give him that amount of time. You may recall that I brought another clock over to a guy who needed a year to work on it, and I still haven't gotten it back, and we're coming up on a 1 year now. So 6 weeks doesn't sound that bad. He's estimating about $600 to restore it completely, and that seems like a really good deal. So we're going to go forward with that, and we'll continue this video in about 6 weeks. See you then. So it turned out the guy at Heritage Clock and Watch Repair Place was a little bit more on the ball than we thought. He must have gotten the parts in earlier than expected, because we originally estimated it was going to take 6 weeks to get the clock back. And in fact, about a week ago, he sent me a text message, and he had gotten a couple of images that he was going to look at for the clock glass. And he says, yeah, I got these two. Which one do you like? And I picked one of them out, and I said, well, I was thinking to myself, well, he must be getting pretty close to being done. So that's a good thing. And I got a text message from him today saying that the clock is ready, and he wanted to know when I could come pick it up. Well, I'm off of work today, so I'm going to go pick it up right now. Let's go. All right, I'm back from the clock repair place. We got the clock back working again. I've heard it chime. It was nice to hear that happen. We got a nice new piece of glass. It isn't exactly what was there before. Let me see if I can get it to the point where you can even see it. So you kind of had this kind of lacy curtain thing with it. And that's the original piece of glass. I'm going to hold on to it for a while in case I can find an actual replacement piece. It turns out this clock isn't really that unique. It was a clock that was made basically for to be kind of mass produced. I know it looks like it's got a lot of real old workmanship on it, but the truth is this was mass produced, and there's a lot of them out there. And in fact, when I was out looking to try and figure out exactly, how old this clock was and stuff like that, I actually found a whole bunch of these that I could buy brand new on the internet for a couple $100. It probably isn't that valuable, except for the fact that it got sentimental value, that this belonged to my great-grandmother and is very, very old. Before I brought it in, I actually did a little research on it to try and figure out when the clock was made and try and get an idea how old it is. And I came up with that I thought it might have been from like the 1880s. And I mentioned that to the clock repair guy when I turned it into him. And he says, yeah, it's entirely possible. And I actually showed him on this little metal thing, not the pendulum, but the little metal thing in the background. There's actually what looks like a date on there, and the date says 1885. And he did some research too, and he believes that probably is accurate, that it's probably, 140 years old. So this is a very cool piece to have in my house. I'm very happy that it's running again, and I actually learned a few things about it too. I was always a little bit paranoid about this clock because my dad had mentioned that there were some weird little idiosyncrasies with it where, you can't just move the hands or something like that to change the time. You have to kind of do some special things in order to get it to work correctly. And I talked to this guy about that. He says, well, it's not really that serious. Basically what happens is there's two winding places here. This little winding thing, that you use the key for. You wind up this one, and this makes the chimes work. And you wind up this one, this makes the clock work. And apparently, if the chimes wind down before the clock winds down, then the clock will get out of sync with the chimes, and it'll take a little while for you to get it back into position. I think that was sort of what my dad was talking about, because he said that you might have to like take the hands off at some point and reposition them. And I talked to the guy at the clock shop about that. He says, one, you can advance the clock using the hands if you need to. He recommends not going backwards, which is always a good idea with a clock. And but he says you can do that. And if the chimes get out of sync, there's a little button behind the face on this side here that I can press it that will manually get it to move to the next sequence. And so I can manually move the sequence until it matches what the clock says. So I'm a little less afraid of this. I definitely want to try it at this point, but at this point it's chimed once. I've had it going for about 15 minutes now. It chimed once at 12:30. This is one of those clocks that chimes only at the bottom and the top of the hour. So it's not gonna chime at the 45. It's not gonna chime at the 15. So that'll make it easier. It'll make it a little less noisy, because one of the reasons my mom didn't have this clock running in her apartment, she said it was too loud for the apartment. Now her apartment was kind of small. My place is bigger, and so I think it'll work better with in a larger room. I was a little concerned, for instance, with the grandfather clock over here, having it going off at night. But the truth is, while I can hear it a little bit in my bedroom at night, it isn't really that loud. And I don't expect that this will be much of a problem too. I'm happy to have this back in. Very happy with the results I got from the clock guy. He seems to have done a really good job. He did it quicker than expected. He asked for 6 weeks to work on this. It's been about 4 weeks now, so he got it done really, really quickly. And I'm very, very happy to have this part of my collection again. So anyway, I think that is all that I have for today. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.